Today, we're going to talk about one of the best, in a lot of people's opinions, pay-per-views that we saw in a very long time. Back then. They were on a great roll of pay-per-views though, but this one was caused just because of the success of one of WWE Productions' greatest successes with their, biopic, I guess is the word, DVDs that they put out with. It came around because of the passion of the people that used to chant its name and still do at times to this day. I'm talking about ECW One Night Stand from 2005. Had to make sure I was right. The thing that was born and became a real thing just because of all the buzz that all the ECW fans still had and the passion and all the sales that went on with the rise and fall of ECW DVD that the WWE put out, which I thought they did an amazing job with. Thought they did a hoot of a job on that one. I actually just watched it a couple weeks ago again on the network just to watch it. Man, went, yes. Click. It was good to see it all again. And, with what it turned into with WWECW, I wish they would have just left it at this one beautiful moment. Because it was a great, great show they put together. But, man, enough of that. Let's get into the beginning where, thankfully, the voice of ECW, the man himself, Joey Styles, gets to come out to start out the show, which is so fitting. With all the stuff they did just to fight to keep him around on pay-per-views and all the other, Joey Styles was the absolute man when that happened. With everything that happened. His voice is as iconic as, let's say, JR. When, with all Mankind going off the cell, and just so many moments in WWE, that's what Joey Styles was for ECW. When he's out in the ring, he gives his speech. Obviously emotion. He never thought he was going to be doing another ECW or anything again. Do you blame him? It went down. Finally crashed like a ball of flames. It was done. And to see the emotion, though, and everything, and just, it was so good. Because that's real. That's not like people trying to make emotion. That was real, honest to God. All of their fans from all the way back in the day in the Hammerstein Ballroom. Just seeing all that, that had to just, if he didn't cry, I wouldn't have believed it was real. It was amazing. He announces Mick Foley to come to the ring because Mick's going to be doing special guest commentary with Joey for the night. And we all remember, you should remember. If you don't, go back and look up some of those promos that Mick Foley did while he was in ECW. Those are classics. They were amazing. Stupendous, really. They're some of the best things you'll ever see. Just like Stone Cold when he was down there. But what Paul Heyman got out of Mick Foley on those was just classic. And it was nice to see him, that was his role to be in there. Because we all know Mick couldn't, at that point, he was saying he didn't, couldn't go. We all know that's not the truth, but it does go again. But just to find a way to have so many people that were in the original ECW that stuck around, whether they came or went anywhere else, find a way for so many roles to be filled for people was amazing. And it was a joy to go back and watch it one more time because I haven't watched it in years. I don't know a lot of people that have watched it in years, so I know I'm not the only one. But all that being said, finally we get in to the first match, which was Lance Storm with Dawn Marie, which, there's a name right there. Who she did have her moments in a little run in the WWE. Most of us remember her with, Tori Wilson's dad, that whole thing, but she had a run. And against one Lionheart from back in the day, Chris Jericho, going by the Lionheart name with the gear and all that. And one thing I learned, going back, because I just didn't pick up on it before, I forgot, was, just that they both went through the heart touching. And look at all the names that came through the Heart Dungeon. I mean, but Jericho and Lance Storm both doing that, so much in common. How long they've known each other and wrestled each other. Between ECW, WCW, WWE. Yeah, they were all over the place. But, I mean, they put on just one of the best technical all-around wrestling matches that you'll see. I mean, that's what they were there for. They weren't. They had their moments with all the crazy ECW stuff because they all did. But I mean, just the technical ability that the two of them had, and they proved it in this match. They went back and forth. All kind like they were just so good, and it was good to see Lance Storm again because I mean, what do you remember from him? If I could have, be serious for a moment, like him doing like that thing. But go back, like seeing this paper, you could just see. And how quickly when people did, got hit with weapons during this thing. And the counts were faster by the referees, like everything to keep the pace of the match going and the action more up. There's so little downtime when you look at any of the matches from this night. But, excuse me, like they were just... Like, it was just so good to see them do all of it. Like, all that technical stuff. To see the old. Like, with Walls Jericho beforehand. Like, when he was still Lion Tamer. And he got way... he held it differently than he did the Walls of Jericho. He put the submission on in a completely different manner. Which was amazing. It was glorious. You got to see, here, the first holy chant. Which again, you still get to hear to this day, but just to see it, just in that, I don't know, there's just something about the Hammerstein Ballroom where it just reverberates and the people were so passionate just to get to see it one more time as they thought. And it was just two guys going out there and showing how they could go. Now, did it end that way? I mean, no. Anyone that watched the show knows. In comes two guys, Jason Knight and Just Incredible. To try to interfere for Lance. Doesn't work the first time, but then referee gets distracted. Here comes Just Incredible, who's still, I think he started a podcast and he's doing his thing. Getting all good and healthy and that, But he cracks Jericho with Singapore Cane, because they still call him Singapore Canes, and it's not the kendo stick that we all know and love from the WWE, and just blasted him with it, and Lance Storm stole the victory. Again, this was supposed to be his, allegedly his last match. They made a big deal about it, but I mean, those two, they showed that good technical side of wrestling, which is what, they were known for. They're technicians in the ring. They're good. They're really, that was their thing. And look at Jericho in WWE. Look at the matches he put on with all kinds of people. Triple H's, The Rock's, Shawn Michaels. He was great on the mic. He put on great shows. He could go. He's still going right now, for God's sake. So it was good. Regardless of how it ended or how you felt about it, it was ECW. That was the thing. It was okay. It was good. I put a smile on. Like, I was sitting there just enthralled. Nothing on the iPad, nothing on the phone. Like, just the smile on my face watching people actually wrestle. Granted, I knew what I was getting myself into because I remember this night pretty well, but just to see, the great technical wrestling, which, at one point, I'm going to be on bold limb out here going, and say that they had the best technical wrestling going on over ECW and WWE. When ECW was around, they had the best technical wrestling. The Lucha Libre style and all that, that was there. They had the violence, but they had all that too. And something they don't get a lot of credit for. And their matches were faster. Their style just kept it going and more action. It started off on a bang. After that bang, it sadly got to a somber moment for the night when they put up the memorial video for all of those superstars that could not be with them, because they sadly have passed away since, in that time where ECW closed its doors. Great guys like, Rocco Rock from the Public Enemy. They were, huge in ECW, and they went to WWE, and well, we all know how that match went with the Acolytes. But that's another story for another day. Terry Gordy. Look at his big run, WCCW and all. Like, he was huge and all that. Mike Lockwood, or as we know him in the WWE, Crash Holly. Like, we all loved Crash and the 24/7 title being, defended 24/7. All the stuff that brought to it. The original Sheik was on the list. Mike Lazansky. Pitbull, Anthony Durant. Big Dick Dudley. And then last one was Chris Candido, who did play, very good. I mean, all those guys. And just go back and watch the stuff and just see some of the stuff they did. And I know most people here on that list, when they hear it, just think of, Crash Holly. Because it was a run in WWE. I mean, he had a hell of a run. And one for the hardcore title, God knows where he would have been. That man, that title was just gold. And it was good, though. It was good to see it. It's sad to have to pay tribute to people that couldn't be there, because it wasn't that many. I mean, it was a bunch of years, but it wasn't that many years where they should have had that big of a list of people that were no longer with us. But they paid their respect, and they carried on to a three-way dance, which goes from a triple threat, and then first pinfall happens, it goes on to a one-on-one contest, and it doesn't end like a triple threat in normal wrestling. With Tajiri still going with Yoshihiro Tajiri, using the name that he had in ECW back in the day. Obviously, just like Chris Jericho coming out to Lionheart. It was good to see it. Just to hear that again one more time after all that time, and he was just Tajiri. And he came out with Sinister Minister and Mikey Whipwreck, who had one hell of an amazing career in ECW. Did stuff with Mick Foley, all kinds of stuff. Good run. Against Little Guido, who is Nunzio. You remember him in the WWE. Came out with the whole, with the FBI, the full-blooded Italians. Giant thing. Forgot how big some of those guys were. There was little Nunzio there. But he came out, and then last but not least was Super Crazy, all by himself. And seeing Super Crazy, I mean, y'all got to see Tajiri, obviously, in the WWE. You got to see Nunzio, or Little Guido here. Still did the FBI thing, so all that, just change the name there. And, Super Crazy, seeing how good Super Crazy was, because he never had that big of a run in a major company. He's not remembered as much, at least, for the big names that came through any of those companies. And that man, seeing him go on that night, he was going. It was amazing just to see the acrobatics, the endurance, the agility. And everything they managed to mix in with all of those people, being in the mix. That was a whole plethora, a hell of a lot of people that they had and put on the payroll just to be involved in it. Just so they could be, even if it was just guys that were outside the ring. And they got to show up for a few seconds. It was amazing what they put together with all of that. All of it. If you heard that, say hi to Buster, because he just woke up. But it was glorious to see it. Super Crazy was the first one to go up, do it. He's doing, moonsaults off the balcony of the second, level of seating there in the Hammerstein Ballroom. Which, to take out all the FBI and all them. And that was a super jump. Compared to some of the stuff you see in, that thing was up there. It was amazing. It was truly, just to see. And he made it look so easy. The whole entire match. That was the one thing that I forgot about him. Was how easy he made absolutely all of it look. It made it look like it was a piece of cake. And that there was no effort at all. He was just doing it so fast, so easy, so everything. It was amazing. See every second of it. I loved every second of it. And, there was outside interference. We got to see, we all expected there to be outside interference. The whole FBI was out there. Mikey Whipwreck and Sinister Minister were out there. Everyone got their piece in there. And, little Guido, or Nunzio, whatever you want to call him, was the first to go. And there went the FBI being eliminated. Then it was just between Tajiri and Super Crazy. And then Tajiri pulled out in the middle of this thing, the tarantula. And you see a few people popping off here and there now program, but I mean, who remembered that, who remembers that? I mean, he even pulled out the mist on the FBI before they were gone. Who remembers? I mean, like, you occasionally see it on, like, programming now. Occasionally. I think it's been a while since we've even seen it now. Then pulling out the mist and blowing it in people's eyes. The green mist. And everyone falls over and acts like they're blinded. But it was just to see Tajiri going. The fast pace, doing everything like he did before he got to WWE. Because we all know WWE style, no matter what, is different than the ECW style, which is different than WCW, which is now even different than, like NXT and the main roster have, different things. Like you could tell, similarities between, and the differences between all of them. But Tajiri pulling out the tarantula, the mist, those kicks were so snappy and all that. Everyone kicking out of everything, by the way. Like 1-2, like rapid as can be, just get right back up and keep moving. Like it was amazing to watch. And Super Crazy pulls off the victory after everything, and all the outside interference in the match, but just all the people that got to get involved just in that match. I mean, Super Crazy, Little Guido, Nunzio, and the 4 members, I think, other members of the full-blooded Italians that were out there. Mikey Whipwreck, the Sinister Minister, Tajiri. Just listen to those names there. And only 3 people were actually competing. The rest were just there for outside interference. And because of and they brought literally everyone back to come and do it. Which was probably my favorite part of the night. One of at least. But that match, I mean, that, again, was just glorious. I was happy to see it. I know most people were happy to see it, Made me feel good. It was a good all-around, and Super Crazy, again, just crazy athletic. Like, you didn't see it very often, so I completely forgot just how much he could just everything. And you had the strikes, the flying. I mean, that guy could do everything. And it was amazing. I loved every second of it. If you watch it, you're going to love every second of it. At least you should. If you don't, you're crazy. And after that match is over, it then led to, again, another video package to celebrate classic ECW moments that everybody will always, always remember. Like the great one, when Sandman caned the holy hell out of Tommy Dreamer. And that's when Tommy Dreamer really picked up his respect and was off to the races, like in ECW, became the innovator of violence. Like all that. Like, I mean, Sandman was just caning the hell out of him. He was caning the life out of him. But that's a moment that everyone remembers from ECW. When everyone started zinging the chairs, it was a Terry Funk match. And the crowd just started throwing. All the chairs got filled up in the ring. When Public Enemy had all the people come in the ring, and the ring collapsed while they were bouncing around celebrating. When Sandman pulled off, ripped off the shroud over his eyes and all that in the glass, and proved that he wasn't actually blind. And, well, it's not about Dreamer and, canes. It's getting caned to death. But that happened in there, too. Like, there were so many good things. And you can't forget Shane Douglas, the franchise, throwing down the old NWA title. Like, that's the one that put everyone off to the races. When he threw that down and made his proclamation that night, that put them off to absolute insanity. In the best way possible. Like, that was the night that changed everything. But those moments, I mean, whether it's Shane Douglas throwing it down or, Tommy Dreamer just getting caned to death by Sandman for some reason. It's the 2 of them always be linked down in history as Singapore canes. And sadly, Tommy was the one eating them most of the time. But we all remember those moments. And, stroll down memory lane if you're watching, going, hey, here's some of the stuff we used to get away with, which is nice to see. I wish they would have just left it at this instead of bringing it back. But again, it's another day, which led to Psychosis versus Rey Mysterio. And this is the first time that, in Psychosis took his mask off. It's the first time. Did that and wrestled without it in North America, which, all the fans were more than happy throughout the match to tell him to put his mask back on. Don't know if that says a lot about, they just wanted him to have it on, remember the character, or because he's ugly as sin. Who remembers? Who knows? But, excuse me, this match was glorious. And remember, ECW was the one that made Luchador. Lucha Libre, Luchadors, that whole style, like, the one that brought it to the U.S. and made it as big as it was. So later went to WCW, but then WWE had the light heavyweights and the cruiserweights, and 205 Live now for the cruiserweight title. Like, it has evolved, but ECW was the ones that brought them there. And these two are tearing the house down, doing all the stuff you'd expect. Seeing people, doing climbing off the top rope and doing seeing sentons into people sitting on chairs in the crowd. Like, that stuff you would not be able to get away with in WWE. Especially today. But even back then. It was right in there. Around that many people. Like, it's just unfathomable, the awesomeness that they let them get away with in this match. With everyone flying this way, that way, and every way, but, it's not everywhere but wrong. I don't know. They were, like, it was... And because it was, ECW. Like, you see the 205 Live guys and Luchadors when they're at other places. The matches in ECW are already turned up. Speed-wise, compared to WWE and WCW, faster counts of the referees, faster recoveries from, like, getting hit by things or going, like, it was just good. So this match was just so much got packed in to the amount of time that they were allotted to do it. And it was just... you got to see the stuff that, you saw Psychosis do in other places, and you get to see Rey do all the time. But, they threw their ECW chairs and sentons from the top rope into the crowd, and you have to throw all that into their match. And it was just so good. And then, it ended with, the usual 619 Zed senton, all the, what Rey finishes his matches with. For the longest time there in WWE. But, oh, excuse me. That was gross. And we got to see the Psycho Guillotine from Psychosis, which is something you're not, like, just the way it was executed, you're not going to see them do it like this ever again. I had to write it down because I knew I'd forget. When Rey was draped halfway over the security railing, which was exposed, it was ECW, he's holding himself up. Psychosis goes off of the top rope and drops a leg on him, and Rey face down and flips him completely over the rail. It's just so violent looking. If you can't, just look it up real fast. You don't even have to watch the whole show. Just look that up. That was just glory right there. That was amazing. Just the violence. It looked like it hurt. It looked like it absolutely sucked. This is one of those things you didn't get to see in the other promotions, which is what made ECW as good as it was. It got them as big as they did. They might not have stayed for forever, but it was stuff like that. This is why they got so big, and people still chant those letters to this day. It was like, you're just not going to see stuff like that. And again, I already told you Rey won with the normal 619 seated senton, but doing those like into competitors sitting in chairs in the stands, never see it. Not in the WWE, WCW, nothing. Seeing that kind of leg drop off the top rope when someone's draped over the rail, they don't flip over that violently and do that, especially over exposed guardrails. That's never gonna happen at all. So it was just one of those, it deserved the holy, what, chance and everything it was getting, because again, it was without ECW, that was stuff you didn't see at all, because none of the other guys let them do that. Especially at WCW, they just threw the cruiserweights out there just to get them away from ECW. They got him. They put him out there. They got their few minutes. See you later. Bye. Like, you're never going to move up from this. Like, we've had many of them say that, no matter how big they were. However they were, like, sorry, you're never going to be any higher than where you guys are right now. Which is a shame, but it is what it is. Once that's all, like, Rey gets the win, we get to see the entrance of the anti-ECW establishment, the superstars from the WWE, from SmackDown, led by Kurt Angle and JBL, and, well, two guys, when they get the mic and they can do it, I mean, it's gold. Kurt's great, JBL is great, just berating everybody. Bar fights with the APA, and poker and all that was entailed, and just pissing people off, and he was JBL. Two things that he was completely good at, and they got to do it, berate people, and do all that throughout the night. And they had their opportunities to do it while they were there, but man, that's when they made their entrance and started pissing people off the whole time and started some of the most colorful chants that you hear the entire night. Which then was followed by another, video package of some more ECW moments, which the ones that I liked the most were Bubba and his, back when he was still doing the stuttering thing, which shows you just how much the characters come. And look what he was doing by the end of it to go from where he was in ECW with the stuttering thing he was doing like that, like I just did, to where him and Devon were by the end of the run in ECW. It is just amazing, classic, glorious, whatever you want to call it. To, the Stone Cold stuff, which everyone forgets about the Stone Cold stuff because he was only there for a little bit. But he had such an impact on there, and he got so good on the mic. And you could tell the WWE wasn't paying attention. And I think when they got him up there and he was the ringmaster, you could tell they just stuck him there. But, I mean, some more. I mean, the classic, there's more moments. Those are just the ones that stood out to me. I mean, I get to hear Kurt Angle chanting, getting berated by the crowd at the microphone, telling him that he sucks. I think I can say you suck dick. Yeah, you suck dick. There we go. To Kurt Angle. And to hear Angle just off his cuff, off the cuff, because, they can't tell what, they're not going to know what they're going to get chanted at them by the ECW crowd. Kurt Angle's response is, yeah, your mom taught me. I mean, that is why just classic, perfect Kurt Angle right there. And they got to go right off the cuff, too, because it was an ECW thing under WWE guys, but it was an ECW pay-per-view. Their fans in the Hammerstein Ballroom, their chants, like all of it. Commentary, you could tell, was different. And the WWE guys all got to let off and let out differently because they didn't have to be so wrapped up, so composed, and so clean because it wasn't the WWE program, technically. With all the big sponsors and all that. And it was just to hear Kurt Angle get chant, you suck dick, thrown at him, and him responding with, yeah, your mom taught me. I mean, if that doesn't make you smile, I mean, what's really going to make you smile? That was just classic. And JBL, getting the shut the F up chant. So did Kurt. He got called an a-hole. He got a lot of those chants, but who didn't see that one coming? And then, but JBL and Kurt Angle, if you're ever going to have two guys to go out there and berate people, those two, out of everyone that they had at that show, SmackDown-wise at least, those were the perfect guys. They cannot have had that got any better. Regardless of what they're going to chant, they knew they were going to get something out of them. I mean, those two are just bar none. Best options you could have had from the people that showed up there for SmackDown. And then enter RVD's music, and RVD enters with Bill Alfonso. RVD after his knee surgery and the brace, still all wrapped up, in Bill Alfonso with that damn whistle that you just want to ram down his throat or something. At least I did. Damn it, it was like, please, for the love of God, just shut up. For the love of God. And RVD even then, mentioned, the mere fact that WWE pretty much has muzzled him since he's been there, and he's only allowed to say 2 or 3 words at a time. And he just sits there and rips one of the best promos. Like, again, Look at all the guys that cut amazing promos in ECW that didn't get to do like anything once they made it to WWE. Now look at there's a list, and look at RVD stuff in WWE, and then go back and watch just even takeover, yeah, One Night Stand. Watch him take. Yeah, it's hard to lose my mind. Take the mic at One Night Stand compared to what he did at any WWE thing. I mean, the man could talk. The man could go off on hell of a shoot. Hell, cut a hell of a if they just gave him the opportunity, but they didn't get so many opportunities. Which is a damn shame. And I bet you every single word that he said about them pretty much muzzling him and all that was 100% true. I bet you that was all off the cuff. It's exactly how he felt. Which is how a lot of people feel when they get up to, WWE in the main roster. Like, they get muzzled. Like, here's what you got to say. Especially nowadays. There's, like, post-Attitude Era when people are like, here you go. Here's some parameters, go. They got to be themselves. I mean, this is, like, here's what we need you to do. Like, which I think makes, you can tell when people are forcing it, because they're getting their words and they just have to spit out the lines, which I think makes garbage. And hearing RVD just let loose was great. I enjoyed every second of berating everybody. Maybe I just love watching people get berated. I don't know. Maybe it's just watching wrestling where people could cut promos, like, just so easily because they were so good and they got so much practice just doing it without a script or anything. So they actually got to, build and know how to do it. And letting people, like, let them rip. That's what made the Attitude Era so good. Just let it rip. Here's some talking points. See you later. Well, like The Rock always did, Stone Cold, like, heard, like, people like Triple H and, Kurt Angle, no, like, what do I do? He went off script. Well, just go. Let it rip. Boom. And look what it turned into with people just started doing that. It was amazing. Sadly, Rhino comes out and attacks an injured RVD, and Rhino is in frightening shape. Like, you should, even if you don't want to watch it, you should go back and just go to this match to see Rhino in the shape he got himself in for this match. Like, it was absolutely terrifying. See how ripped and everything. Like, he was frighteningly in shape, but he goes and attacks injured RVD. I finally didn't have to hear that whistle, which was, a good change of pace. And boom, they hit the lights. Lights come back on, Sabu. And everyone knows all the stuff that we saw Sabu, which we also saw earlier in the show, during one of the video packages when Sabu actually did break his neck, and we all saw it. And he broke down and showed all that, but just to see the shape he was in and to see what Sabu was capable of still doing then. Even if anyone that watched any, ECW knows all the stuff that Sabu did to himself just in ECW, let alone everywhere else. The man just beat himself like to death so much, and how long he was able to keep doing that is amazing to me, at least. I could be in the silent majority. People just want me to shut up. I don't know, but just to see, all the the referee getting gored. All the, Sabu leaping off of chairs to get to the top rope and do stuff to the outside. And they use the referee to jump up and get to the, top rope to fling on people on, to do moves to the outside or offensive stuff. Or air Sabu and just how innovating he was. And everyone say hello to Buster because he woke back up and decided to shake and stand in the middle of the light and blind himself. But just to see how good Sabu was. And Rhino, how good they were when they were in their element, just moving it at a million miles an hour, because they were back then. They were just going. And we all know by the end of the night, again, referee gets gored. He goes down. There comes RVD with his bad knee and all to get even with Rhino. Which, again, who was really surprised by that? And then Rhino gets, put through table with, Sabu in a chair. And, it was classic. It was such a classic ECW moment that, you can't feel bad about watching. Seeing RVD do all that stuff when he's supposed to be playing off a bad knee. And all that. He was doing all that. Again, I'm sitting there looking to make sure I don't, miss anything here. Because, not joking, literally, wrote down, the good high points because there was just so much on the show. But to see, people laying on tables, jumping off of ropes, holding a chair underneath himself to smush that, like, just end the guy through the table. Just the innovation and the innovative stuff and all the craziness that they did was amazing. It was truly amazing. And then, sadly, we had the low point of having to see Eric Bischoff when the Raw guys entered with Edge right behind him. But, I mean, Eric Bischoff, I get it. He did his thing. Not my favorite moment. But because Bischoff, I think, did do much more damage to ECW than WWE ever did. That's just my opinion. For what he did to the, roster and their talent pool and everything, just to do things, just to hurt them. That's literally the only reason that he was there. Literally. I mean, look at all... He stole the cruiserweights. He stole everything he could. Gave Mike Awesome a boatload of cash. To jump ship. Which led to, craziness. He was champion. Led to all kinds of dumb stuff that they had to then deal with and fix and correct. So the two of them, I mean, at least WWE gave them the time of day. Gave ECW the time of day. They let him on Raw. They did all kinds of good stuff for him. They did. They were there. They were helpful. They tried something. They weren't just poaching talent. And they could say, you call it poaching talent and raiding one's roster. I call it, help it. Like, no, you really just went through and just stole everything they had that made them unique. So then, they had to go and take on something else. Because, they didn't have the big budget. So, that's just, again. And then we get to see, after I'm done staring at Eric Bischoff, we get to see the first ever ECW match between Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. And no matter what you feel about how Chris Benoit ended, man was still probably one of the top, technically sound wrestlers on the planet at this time. Earlier, until everything that happened, and how his life ended, and all the tragedy that happened, idiocy that happened surrounding that. Regardless of how we feel about that, because none of us agree with or could believe anything that he did actually happened, but wrestling-wise, he was on point. Should he have kept doing the headbutt? Who knows? How many CTE, how many concussions did he have? Who knows? But this was the first match between him and Eddie, everyone, look at everyone's influence, from Sasha and like the John Cena's and everyone that said they learned, this generation learned so much in the last. So much from Eddie Guerrero about how to have a match and how to listen to the crowd and to tell how you're going to do things and to do all of that. Like, Eddie Guerrero is one of the best ever. And it is a damn shame that after he finally, got through all those demons, got through all of that stuff, that we lost him that early and the way we did. And thankfully it wasn't an overdose or something dumb like that, but to see Eddie, finally got clean, got everything. He was one of the best going that they had. And to see it end the way that it did was tragedy. And this match was, it's technically sound, which is why, again, they were just like the Jerichos and the Storms. They were mostly, they were the great technical powerhouses of ECW. They could do everything. They were great, and their match here didn't disappoint at all. It was great to see how good they were, but then, at the same time, look at everything that's happened since then. You stop and just, like, man, what could have been everything that happened with either of them? Especially Chris, if that didn't happen, they weren't, taken so soon from both, heart attacks and, the suicide that happened with Benoit when he killed his whole family. That's inexcusable, but try to get all of that off of your mind when you watch it, and just watch it for the glory that it was, and just the whooping that those two put on each other. And Benoit that shows you where he was at the time. Benoit got the victory with the crippler crossface. He was cranking on for a long time, longer than you see in WWE normally. But, again, it just comes back to it just being such a shame when you go back and think about it, but look on the bright side and the epicness of the match they were having. Don't think of all the other stuff, because that'll just take away from it, and you'll be able to enjoy it. I could, so I sure hope all of you could. Which then moves us on to Mike Awesome, who flips off Eric Bischoff, obviously, because of what I said earlier. He got the big payoff, and then Bischoff screwed him and turned him into that think it was 70s, like just an idiot. Completely wasted him. Just paid him to get him away, the champion away from ECW. So he flipped off Bischoff. Bischoff and Coach turned their back to him. Against Masato Tanaka, who I might add, those two, really, that thing, they just beat the hell out of each other. Chairs were getting dented over people's heads. Everyone was swinging everything. Tables were getting broken. I mean, that was the slugfest of the night. Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka beat the hell out of each other. So much that this was the point where I'm sure, again, it was planned, but where WWE guys were even cheering him on, rooting for him, because, I mean, there were chairs, finishers, tables. I mean, they didn't stop the whole time they were out there. It was just fast-paced, just whooping. Which is what ECW was good for. Like, that was one of their things. They just kept going. So much action. No offense to TNA with their total non-stop action. ECW was way better at it. Like, they were just so good. And these two, again, like, I got to see so many awesome bombs. Referee got an awesome bomb after the match. Tanaka got awesome bombed a million times. Awesome folded a chair around his head after he hit him 3 or 4 times. Tanaka kept going, which you would never see in either of the other promotions. Ever. At this time or at any time. Which is just mesmerizing. And it finally ended with Mike Awesome power bombing Sato Tanaka over the top rope, giving him the awesome bomb over the rope and through a table, and then pulled himself, jumped up over the top rope to go through him one more time. Just, drop another elbow and land on him just to make sure he finished it off, because, for being honest, I think that was like the 3rd table Tanaka went through. And there are a few times where he landed, his neck should not have been bent the direction it was. And he kept going. Like, they had one of the best, just ass whoopings, I guess is the best way to put it, of the night. They just went and went and went. And went and went and went and went and went and went and went. And went and went. And went. And went. Tornado DDTs onto chairs, awesome bombs, tables, chairs getting folded over people's heads. WWE guys enjoying it. So it was getting towards the end because they were finally turning the WWE guys that were there in protest around to like it and appreciate it. And cheer it on, which means he had to be getting close to the end, which don't you worry. They were. So it led to Paul Heyman finally coming out. And we all know Paul can talk. Paul had things to say about, the Bischoffs and the Edges and all of the people that were up there, a plethora of them. And he's allowed to get emotional. He should have done. I mean, that should have been the time where he finally got to unload and tell Eric Bischoff exactly what he thought of him, now that it was all over, no matter what. And he did remind Eric that we were at an ECW event, not a WCW event, because WWE didn't bring that back to have any events, which is a very valid argument, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, he got down on his knees, he bowed to the crowd for being there, he ran his suck like, only Paul Heyman can. It's a gift, really. I mean, look at him to this day, but almost 16 years later. Less hair, doesn't have the trench coat, still running his mouth. Not nearly, this was a passionate, just let it all out night. But it was good to see him do it. Some of them, didn't hit the mark as good as they could have. But, I mean, I'm surprised it took that long for them to let Paul, for Paul to come out. But it was still good, and it led to the main event with the damn Dudleys going against Tommy Dreamer and Sandman, working his way through the crowd, from way up high, drinking his beers, blasting them off of his head, spraying them all over people, doing all. So he's bleeding before he even got to the ring. Excuse me. Sheesh. See? And then, at one point, Dudleys get helped by Just Incredible and Lance Storm. They thought I had to hiccup again or something, but yeah, they got that. Helping them, just clubbing the hell out of each other. I mean, at one point, Tommy gets a box cheese grater across his forehead. He gets Bubba back again with it later, just a total bloodbath. At one point, we see Francine come out to nail, for a low blow to Tommy. Then suddenly there's Beulah McGillicuddy out there. They're rolling around with the ECW chants, especially for Mick Foley. Thongs popping out, asses rolling everywhere. Like everything it was, all that blood. And we get the Tommy and Beulah hug after he sees it. I mean, God bless her, because he was like covered from head to toe in blood. He was a mess. He was just covered. Yeah. They put on one of the most vile matches you saw. There were 3Ds. Everyone went through tables. Cheese graters. I mean, and enter Spike, who comes in, running down the ramp, waving his finger like that, who then enters lighter fluid and a lighter to the table before they put Tommy through the table to finally get the victory in the bloody mess that Tommy was. I mean, you want to see a bloodbath, watch that. Those guys are using cheese graters, chairs, kendo sticks, ladders. Or sure, Sandman, excuse me, brought the ladder into the match and then put it on Tommy's head, and he was just swinging at anything that moved at one point in a crimson just mask of blood. It had everything you wanted. Blood, violence, women, with all kinds of stuff flopping out. I mean, fire. What else did you need? It had everything. And then when the match was over, Tommy lost their Sandman screaming, "Get me a beer." Never mind. I mean, total Sandman fashion. Just molly-whopping the hell out. And then we get to hear the beautiful sound of glass breaking. Stone Cold enters, and again, everyone forgetting. A lot of people don't even know that he was there if you ever watched ECW, but he was out there just cutting promos. In ECW, he was there before he got called to WWE and became the ringmaster, which, well, it's another story for another day. But there he comes out. He calls them all out. Talks trash to every one of the WWE guys up there, tells them to all get down there. After all, the ECW guys hit the ring. WWE, guys come down, get in the ring, so we all know they can have their, the good finish to the night and the send-off. And Stone Cold asked Foley to drag Bischoff, because Bischoff went to the commentary booth to the ring so he can, get his afterwards. But, like, the moral, as ECW, guys beat WCW, the WWE guys and the guys that came from WCW that were now WWE, but as they all marched off back behind, through the entryway, Foley goes and, bang bangs and drags Bischoff to the ring. And I wrote it down just because he took everything. Bischoff got 3D'd by the Dudleys. He got the headbutt from Benoit. He got 619 by Rey Mysterio. And then he got a stunner from Stone Cold and carried out and thrown on a flatbed by Bubba Dudley. And I'm pretty sure Devon was right there by him. And then, the beer bash, the music, the normal things you would expect. The moral of the story is, that was a hell of a night. Has everything you ever wanted in a technical wrestling. Violence, blood, half-naked women, if you're, everything you could ever, want. In a 2.5 hour period, roughly. I mean, and when you watch it, you will. When you remember what they did with WWE, you're gonna, be, oh, why couldn't they just leave it there? Why couldn't they leave well enough? It was perfect. And it was. I mean, and it had all the memorials and the highlight reels and everything you would expect. And, great promos. ECW, best promos. Bar none. But, please, go back. Watch it. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. I promise you. It was a hell of a night then. If you haven't watched it in years, it's a hell of a night now. Go back and watch it. Like this, comment, tell me what you think about it. Share it. Get your friends to watch it. Just do something. And this one went on forever and ever, and I have no problem with that, because I could talk wrestling forever. If you want to come on and talk to me about something, let me know. That's what the page is there for. Comment on this. Put a post on that. Do something. Let me know. Tell me what you want me to watch. Tell me what you want me and someone else. You want the two of us to watch it. We can discuss it. Do something. And I do this for y'all because I know there's people that are passionate with it just like me. So, follow me wherever. Let everyone know. Get the word out there. Enjoy NXT tonight. Be nice to each other. And tomorrow we're going to go over that. So, enjoy the rest of your night. Bye-bye, my folk. Peace.